Hey, this is Matt. Welcome back to the channel, Blind to Billionaire. So what does it mean when someone says they have light perception? Or what is light perception even? So in today's video, I'm going to be discussing light perception and what it means, and I'm even going to give you some examples of what it looks like to see as someone with light perception. So full disclaimer, I'm giving you these examples from my experience and a little bit of from what I've learned from other people who also say that they have light perception. So if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you know that I've said that I have light perception, or that's how I define it anyway. That's what my vision is anyway, light perception. So what does it mean? Like when I say that, what does it mean to say I have light perception, and what can I see with light perception? So I thought it might be an interesting video to get into detail and talk about it a little bit more and give you a couple examples. I have some examples here and I'm kind of excited to show you. Hopefully it conveys what I can actually see. So light perception, what is it? So generally I would say, and from the conversations I've had with other people who say that they have light perception, I would say it is generally being able to identify the difference between light and dark in most situations. Now, let me define in most situations. I would say for me, in my experience, I can identify light if it is bright light and it's more of like a high contrast situation. For example, I've said this a couple other times in other videos. I'm sitting at a table right now, right above me. I don't want to look up at it, but there's a light. It's bright. There's, I don't know, maybe like 8 bulbs in it. So it's pretty bright. Behind that, beyond that is the kitchen, and it's dark. Like there's no lights on over there. So I can see like, okay, it's kind of a dark setting behind. It's not totally dark, but it's dark-ish behind. And then I know there's a really bright light right above the camera. So if I were to look up, I would be able to see like, whoa, those are some really bright lights. And then I can see like, okay, it's like dark beyond. So, okay, so that's like one definition of what is light perception, as in what does it look like? I can identify the difference between the dark behind and the bright light right above. So that's kind of a vague description of it, but like I said, mostly being able to identify the difference between light and dark. And in my situation, provided the light is very bright and there is more of like a high contrast. Now, the only exception to that would be like, for example, the sun. If I go outside and the sky obviously is really bright, if I look up, I can actually see the sun. And the reason that is because it's so incredibly bright. So in those situations, I would say I can still see that. But generally, there needs to be quite a bit of contrast between the light and the dark, or between the light and the surrounding, for me to be able to identify the difference. So again, I've said this before. To my right. So let me digress for a second. As I look forward at the camera, above is that really bright light. So my eyes, are kind of like, I wouldn't say adjusted, but like my eyes are, I don't know, familiar with this bright light above for the moment being. So now if I look to my right, there's a window over there. And the difference is I don't know what time it is. It's sometime in the evening right now. It's getting a little bit darker out in the evening. So as I look to my right, I know that there's a window over there, and the contrast is not very much between the darkness and the window. Well, actually, now that my eyes adjust a little bit, I can see that the difference is a little bit greater. But my point is, when I was looking straight ahead like this, the light above is so bright that when I look to my right, I actually couldn't really tell the difference between maybe like the dark walls or the darkness that the walls creating, like the shadows, versus the window. But now as I look over there a little bit longer, I can actually see like, okay, the window is appearing because it's brighter outside than it is next to the windows, like where the shadow is created. So if that makes any sense. So now let me give you a couple examples. So now the first example is going to be, this is what it looks like for me most of the time during the day, whether I'm, well, I would say, let's just say outside. This is what it looks like for me outside, just generally. I hope this gives a pretty good example. I actually think it will, because I kind of tested and I thought, oh, that's actually a really good example. So this is what it looks like for me during the day. Like, let's say it's daylight outside, it's sunny, it's cloudy, doesn't matter, just it's daylight. This is what it would look like for me. So let me get it prepared. Let me test where the camera is. I just bumped it actually. Okay, so I'm gonna hold this up like this. Hopefully I'm shining it at. So what I have is I have a piece of wax paper in front of the camera. Oops, I just hit it again, sorry about that. I have a piece of wax paper in front of the camera and I'm shining a flashlight. Hopefully I'm shining the flashlight right at the camera. So basically what it looks like, what it should look like to you is just like a really cloudy, but really bright. Really cloudy and really bright setting, right? So you really didn't have any definition. You couldn't see any objects, but yet you could possibly see a really bright light that was like, hey, like, stop shining that light at me. So that's basically what it looks like to me. So I always wear sunglasses outside because my eyes are so sensitive to the light that I always just need to wear them. So I'll give you another example what it looks like at night for me with light perception. So now, again, going back to what I just discussed, with a high contrast setting or situation, for example, at night, let's say I'm at night, it's completely black outside with the exception of maybe like street lights or house lights or maybe even a full moon. So this next example is going to be what it looks like at night with light perception. As long as there's high contrast, the light is surrounded by darkness, there's actually a little bit more definition, but once again, it's still cloudy. So for this example, I actually need to turn the light off. So give me just a second, I'm gonna hit the switch and I'll come back and give you the... Okay, so there we go. I hit the switch, well, it looks really dark to me in here right now. So I'm gonna feel out for the camera real quick. Okay, so here we are. So I'm gonna do my same example. Well, similar example anyway. I'm feeling for the camera, okay. So hopefully that gives, so again, I'm holding the wax paper up and I have a finer bead on the light. And basically what it should look like is kind of a cloudy light. It should look like a cloudy light, but yet the light is maybe a little bit more defined since it's high contrast. It's essentially, it's dark in the room right now and I'm shining this bright light. So it's still cloudy, but yet you can see like a defined light versus before, it probably just looked really bright and cloudy and still bright. So I'm gonna hit the light, I'll turn the light back on for just a sec. So that is how I would generally describe what it looks like to live with light perception. So now, like I've explained in previous videos, I am not totally blind. I still have, like I always say, light perception. So I can still see light, but other than that, I can't really see a whole lot else. I don't really have a whole lot of definition. What I also can see is very, very high contrast. For example, okay, so right behind me, there's a, I don't know what color the wall is, lighter colored wall. If someone was standing against that wall with a black shirt on, it would have to be a very dark color. It would have to be black and probably maybe even more light in the room right now. If someone was standing against that wall, I would probably be able to see a general, vague, kind of like really rough outline of a human body. I wouldn't be able to see what the person's face looks like. I wouldn't be able to identify their hair color or probably even a general color of the hair. I wouldn't be able to figure that out. I would be able to see like a dark blob against the lighter colored wall as kind of like a general outline of a human structure, right? An even better situation for me, now this like almost never happens because nobody has black walls, but if someone had black walls in their house and or black walls anywhere, and a person was wearing a white t-shirt and stood against that wall, it would actually be far easier for me to see it. I do a lot better when there's a black background and high contrast white on top of that black versus in this situation where the wall behind here is a brighter color and then a dark on top of that. So I do much better with the light on top of dark versus the other way around. So that's why, like I was showing the example just now with the high contrast, the light that I shine through with the lights off, like the flashlight that I was shining through with the lights off, that's actually a lot easier for me to see. So even though I don't have night vision, it's actually somewhat easier for me to navigate at night in the dark simply because I can use the lights that I see as kind of placeholders and markers as I try to navigate somewhat in the dark. So I generally like to live somewhat in the dark, even though I love the natural light. When I'm around at home, I never turn lights on because I actually just use, like, when I look at a window, I can use that as kind of a place marker. Like, okay, there's a window there. That means I know that the kitchen is to my left, right? So it just makes it easier to use just kind of like natural placeholders to give me an idea of where I am rather than always turning lights on, because typically lights just create more glare. So anyway, hopefully that gives you somewhat of an idea of what it looks like for someone with light perception, and maybe gives you a little bit more clarity for when I talk about light perception, or if you ever hear other people talking about it. So anyway, if you have any questions, stick those down below and I will try to elaborate in more detail if you would like. Otherwise, if you're new here, I'd love it if you subscribe. Otherwise, be sure to check out Corey's video from last Friday. She's doing a giveaway. I don't know what she's giving away yet. Yeah, but she's going to be doing the giveaway this coming Friday, so be sure to watch that. Otherwise, like I said, comments or questions, stick those down below. Otherwise, if you're new, I'd love it if you subscribe, and I would love to connect with you and get to know more about you. Thanks for watching this. I will look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.